I think it's okay to celebrate the overturning of Roe v. Wade, but I viewed that as the beginning of the pro-life movement, not the end of the pro-life movement, because now states are not hamstrung, right? Their hands aren't tied behind their back. Feckless Republicans used to be able to get away with doing nothing by saying, my hands are tied, Roe versus Wade, federal decision, I have no control. Well, now,
law of the land.
Yeah, now states can do whatever they want. So some states are moving to codify abortion through point of birth into their state constitution, and we're fighting these amendment fights around the country, by the way. And other states have shut down the surgical abortion mills, for example, Idaho, Tennessee, Texas, Arkansas, Alabama, South Carolina, go down the list, Oklahoma. But the abortion pill is being shipped in against the law, by the way, which is kind of crazy. Technically, on paper, it's against the law. And the abortion pills, RU486, Roussel Uclof, the French pharmaceutical company that created the abortion pill.
Coming across the border illegally is against the law, but we're compassionate, so we let it happen 40 million times, and we don't think that's a problem either.
Right. Well, I mean, I heard someone once say there's a problem with what was the big problem in America? Oh, college-educated white Christian women. So toxic empathy treated as some sort of like federal virtue that we all need to bow the knee to. Well, babies are being murdered, and the abortion pill's being shipped into Tennessee, here, Pastor Allen, into every other red state that has shut down their surgical mills. And Guttmacher Institute, Planned Parenthood Statistical Research Branch, they're reporting, this was 2.5 years ago, that 60% of the babies being killed are being killed by the RU486 abortion pill. Well, that was 2 years ago. So now it's 70% or more. So you're talking over 1 million babies are being killed every year in America right now. Land of the free, home of the brave. 250th. God bless America. Yeah, I'm not sure if he's going to bless America when the sewers of our country run red with the blood of our children and the pulpits are largely silent. And so how are we going to end? Uncomfortable answer that I have to say on the program, and this will make people upset, but you need to know the truth. Republican lawmakers, often at the behest of pro-life organizations, some very big ones in America, who, and I have the letters, this is not hearsay, I don't just say stuff. When I say stuff, I have all the receipts. And these pro-life organizations will write letters and make phone calls, and they'll pressure Republican lawmakers in red states to not support bills that would criminalize abortion. So like, I'll just name some. Susan B. Anthony List, Concerned Women for America, National Right to Life, Students for Life. What's the other one? Anyways, several of these large ones. And they will actively work against legislators, often godly men, like Christian men, who don't have a big podcast or following because they're just state lawmakers. And these state lawmakers, they're just trying to end abortion. So 4 or 5 months ago in Tennessee, there was a bill. We had enough votes to get it out of assembly, and it would have given preborn babies legal protection. Because as it stands, the aborting mother has legal immunity. She has like a shield almost, and it's written into the pro-life law that shut down the abortion mills in Tennessee. It was written into that law where if she takes that abortion pill, murders her baby, it poisons the baby, it starves the baby to death, and the second pill forces her uterus to have contractions, and she flushes the baby down the toilet. And now they're finding trace elements of mifepristone, the first abortion mill, in our drinking water. Yeah, there's consequences to murdering babies and flushing their body down the sewage system. If we want to remove those shield laws so that it's actually a crime, it's not about hating women. It's not about like wanting to throw mothers in jail. We just want to make the statement it should be illegal for everyone to kill anyone. It should just be a crime. If the boyfriend slips the abortion pill in his girlfriend's drink without telling her, that should be a crime. If the grandma drives her teenage daughter to go get an abortion, that should be a crime. If the father drives his daughter and forces her, that should be a crime. If she takes it willfully, of her own volition, intentionally to kill her baby, that should be a crime. We just want that baby to be protected in law. And so here was a bill earlier in 2026 in Tennessee. Like, America at its best. This was a great opportunity to show America at her best. Like, what if Tennessee was the first state, Pastor Allen, to end abortion? We could save the babies. And then Tennessee Right to Life and other pro-life organizations came in and started promising to pull endorsements of Republican pro-life lawmakers in the next session and promising to replace them with new incumbents if they voted for an anti-abortion bill that would have ended abortion in Tennessee. It wasn't Planned Parenthood sending down drag queens to pressure lawmakers. It was Christian pro-life organizations betraying the unborn and their donors those donors think they're giving to end abortion that led to the killing of a bill in Tennessee that could have ended abortion. So this is the fight before us.
It is.
And if we remember what the church has always been fighting, And all the patristics, by the way, all the church fathers called to treat abortion as a crime. They called to treat it as murder. So, and in the years after Roe v. Wade, people forget this. So people are now calling me like a wild abolitionist or something like this, which, I mean, William Wilberforce, he was a wild abolitionist, so I guess I'm fine with that.
Calling you enthusiastic?
Enthusiastic,
Hard to
yeah.
believe.
But there was an abolitionist kind of sect in the pro-life space that believes that immediate action is so like it has to be completely banned and criminalized. Anything short of immediate action is sin. I'm not in that camp because like in Oregon, I would love to see a bill passed that would end second and third trimester abortions. And I would support that because there's no way you're going to get a ban in 2026 in Oregon. So I'll take some righteous, like saving of lives.
Save some children.
So I'm not a full-blown abolitionist in the way that is used in the pro-life space. But in a red state where we have Republican supermajorities, yes, we should push for a full criminalization bill that would just end abortion. And so I just released an equal protection statement recently. It was covered by the New York Times. It was very, very interesting. It was like, growing movement on the right calls for criminalizing women. It's really, no. These pro-life orgs who hate me and White Rose Resistance now, Pastor Allen, because they're saying Seth wants to criminalize women. I thought we wanted to criminalize abortion. I don't know what that means to criminalize women. And that's not nice. When in reality, if you ask post-abortive women, when you got an abortion, would you have done it if it was a crime? 100% of the women who have had abortions, who are healed now and they're fighting for life, that I've asked that question to, have said no. There's no way I would have ever gotten an abortion. Beautiful. So you're saying that the law can be used. We can do this in red states, bro. All we need to do is educate enough Christians to get involved in the political sweat work, and that means phone calling. That means calling your state legislator. It means showing up at his office. It means door knocking to fight for these babies like the gun lobby fought for guns. You know, you remember this, right? Constitutional carry used to be radically unpopular. And this is the argument we hear from pro-life establishment groups. They say, Seth, the culture is not with us. We have to wait to get the culture. We can't push for criminalizing abortion when the culture is not with us. The culture wasn't with constitutional carry when they were NRA and the whole gun lobby was pushing for that. But political power and cultural influence doesn't go to the majority that represents 51%. It goes to the minority of people who are willing to mobilize politically and apply political pressure on the lawmakers to get stuff done. And then as constitutional carry started getting passed by what? A patriotic group of gun-toting Americans who are willing to do the political sweat work to get stuff done. After those laws started getting passed, it's a fascinating story. We can tell it another time, but the short version is constitutional carry got more popular after it got passed. So yes, Anthony Breitbart, culture, politics is downstream of culture, but culture is also downstream of politics. It's a two-way street. Politics looks like and what kind of culture is allowed to be built or not be built. And we do that legislatively. When sodomy used to be banned, guess what? Gay stuff wasn't a part of our culture. Why? Because the scaffolding called politics determined what kind of culture was allowed to be built or not. We could give this with 15 other examples.
It may be tomato and tomato, but I think the scaffolding is worldview.
Yes, ultimately upstream culture is religion externalized.
Well, the question we always ask as a part of this podcast is, so what can we do?
Yeah, amen.
And as I'm listening to this, it seems to me, from my seat, and I'll limit it to that. See, I don't have the imagination that politics will save us. I think we have to have a transformation of hearts. Prayer.
That's right.
It's taking a biblical worldview and living that out in your home, with your friends, in those expanding spheres of influence that God entrusts to all of us.
Amen.
I believe if we do that, then politics reflects that. Mm-hmm. I think if we want politics to do something we're not willing to do ourselves, we're hypocrites of the first order.
Yep.
We want politicians to be more bold or more courageous. We're hiding from the reality.
Yep.
So I think the simple answer is we become advocates. We become pro-life voices in our homes, at our kitchen tables, at our holiday tables, when we gather with our friends groups.
At school boards.
But if you won't do it in those other places, I don't want you going to the school board.
Yeah, that's right. No, it's great. It's beautiful.
Don't step out beyond if you're not willing to have it around your table,
Yep.
I don't want to visit you on the school board.
I do think that there is a theological problem, though, in the church, Pastor Allen, because
There's more than one. Just for
truest thing that's ever been
disclosure.
said on the podcast today. That I have met so many Christmas dinner, but they don't think that what they believe about those things and how they disciple their children to live out God's design for their life and be courageous. Are cowards in the public square because they're cowards at their dinner table and they're not discipling their children and their family to live out God's design. But there's also, because I talked to way too many of these Christians who catechize their kids, Bible study, God's design for your life, be courageous, bring up truth at the family dinner table, even when gay Uncle Bob is over for Super Bowl Sunday. But they don't think that there is a role for the church in the public and political sphere to run godly men in local elections, to door knock, to apply political pressure about what God has said about children, about marriage, and say that this should be reflected legislatively to honor God and to protect babies from being raised by two dads, to protect children in the womb from abortion instruments. They'll say that's political. We're not called into that arena, but it was politics that legalized abortion and led to the slaughter of 55, 65 million babies in 53 years. So I think that what you're saying is absolutely true, but I've also just seen a mindset with too many millions of Christians who would say amen to the boldness in the home, but they don't think that there's a role for the church to fight evil in the public square and restore legislative protections to babies that we've declared open season on. And that's part of the reason I wrote the book.
Right.
Anyways, I don't know. What do you
I
think
think
about
the book is good. Marriage is not a political issue.
Amen.
Human sexuality is not a political issue. Those are biblical issues. The definition of a nuclear family is not a political issue.
Right.
It's a biblical issue.
Amen.
And we, without any question, have a responsibility